seconds after I ask the question, right? Okay. What proposed legislation in the 2022 legislative session do you believe would have the biggest negative impact on the state?
So, in 2022, proposed mask mandates and vaccine mandates have been an extremely controversial issue, and I am against them. I am not against vaccines per se, but I am against mandating them, as people should be able to choose on their health. And I am also against mask mandates. I do think businesses can require it as it is their property and their right as a business, but I don't think that the government itself should mandate businesses or people to get vaccinated or wear masks. And this will hurt Americans as it takes away their choice. And as the government of Utah, we need to help protect people's rights. Thank you.
Okay. We have 7 minutes for a rebuttal. Let me just set my timer. Okay. I think that we had candidate Jesse.
I'm Christina. Do we want to do name tags? I didn't my last one first.
This is sorry, Peterson.
Yeah.
Okay, you can do candidate Peterson.
Okay. I would actually like to agree with a lot of these points. However, I do think that focusing on the vaccine mandate as having vaccine mandates abolished really is a great point of yours. I think that it causes so much harm to families and really violates the bodily autonomy of our citizens and of Utahns that I think that would be a very bad path to go down as a governor of Utah. I do also think that reducing, keeping legislation that mandates and restricts COVID regulations, I think that would be a great idea to keep those to a minimum too, as that impacts businesses and harms families who depend on these businesses. Closing down non-necessary businesses and non-essential businesses, really those businesses are essential to our citizens who depend on the money they bring into it to live off of for their families and to eat and pay their house mortgages, etc. Those businesses are essential for those families, and regulating those along with other things violates and harms our citizens. Thank you.
Okay. Candidate Stoddard?
I think what candidate Ewell about the code restrictions is very important, but I believe that COVID is a thing of the past. It was last year when COVID restrictions almost fell completely, and we have a new vaccine that helps with this. Now, I think a more important bill is House Bill 242. This bill will meter secondary water, but 85% of water used is used in agricultural places, so that produces essentially all our food in Utah. So although COVID is important, I think it's much more important to focus on different pieces of legislation. As a governor, I'll try to focus my service on these more important bills. Thank you.
Candidate
Spencer.
Spencer.
I'll partially agree to what he said. What's the last name again?
Stoddard.
Okay, I can't say that. I do agree that we should focus on more important bills. I do not think that COVID-19 was a big deal, and here's why. I think that this COVID-19, well, you can say madness and panic, was really for nothing, because the human body can adapt and get these antibodies that can help against the sickness.
Okay, candidate Henich.
Now, I think for this question, we asked to look at what bill is going to create the biggest impact. Right now, on the federal United States scale, we're in a lot of debt, about $30 trillion, while our GDP is only $20 trillion. What we need to do is address this budget situation, and there actually is a resolution in Congress right now that is addressing this. This is SCR4, and it's the Concurrent Resolution on Fiscal Sustainability. Now, it's doing three things. First, it's recognizing Utah as a fiscally sustainable state. So we're not going to overspend, we're not going to go into debt, and it's recognizing specific ways we do that. And finally, it's calling on the federal government to be more responsible. I believe that this is the most important piece of legislation we have right now because it's going to impact Utah State as well as the entire country.
So I would like to address candidate Stoddard on how he said that COVID is a thing of the past, which I don't think is exactly true, because we're still having problems coming back stronger and reopening the schools and mask mandates and all that. And I agree with candidate Spencer that it's not as dangerous as we first thought, that it's not as harmful to the body, but we still need to address it, and that is in the mask mandates, which is a proposed ideas to help with it, although in fact it is harmful because vaccine mandates take away people's choice about their body, which is their most important thing they have control of. Thank you.
As a reply to candidate Ewell's comments, people don't want COVID. People are done with it. It's been going on forever, and it's been stretched over an immense period of time. It's time we've moved on, and as governor, I plan on moving on. The people need their voice heard, and they don't want COVID. I can't take away a virus, but I can take away mandates. I can push to shift our view from COVID. I can shift our view from these mandates and take it to a more important level. Water affects everybody. COVID does too, but COVID is over. We're done with it. Water's much more important to the economy. Air quality is much more important to the environment. We need a governor like me that will solve these issues. Thank you.
Really, I believe that it sounds like candidate Stoddard is saying many similar things that I have been stressing, which is that COVID-19 mandates aren't harmful and they aren't necessary longer, so we should make efforts to make sure that they aren't continuing to prevail in our society. Our economy needs a break from it, and they need to start getting back on their feet for the businesses that suffer to get back on their feet and to help keeping to pay for their families and all of those necessary things that they need.
Okay,
Thank you.
time's up. And now do you get 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I agree with candidate Stoddard that COVID should be a thing of the past, and I want to move past it, but we have to address the fact of vaccine mandates, which is something people are proposing to move on past COVID. And I was answering the question on what is a negative bill, which I believe is vaccine mandates, which would harm Utahns. Thank you.
Okay. Question 2, Mr. Hennig. The Utah State Constitution earmarks nearly all income tax revenue for public and higher education. However, the legislature is debating the possibility of submitting a constitutional amendment to voters, removing that requirement. Would you be in favor of removing the requirement for income tax revenue to be spent on education within Utah?
All right. To begin, I'd like to start by talking about a children's storybook. There's a sheep. and this sheep wants a cake. So the sheep goes and asks the pig, "Pig, do you want to help me bake a cake?" The pig is busy. So the sheep asks the chicken, "Will you help me bake a cake?" The chicken, "I'm not that hungry right now." And the sheep asks the horse, "Will you help me bake a cake?" And the horse says, "Nah, not right now." So the sheep bakes the cake on her own. And when it's done, the horse, the chicken, and the pig all come asking for a slice of the cake. Now, this is representative of income tax itself. People create revenue. They earn money. And when people are asking for a slice of that money, they are taking what is inherently somebody else's. Now, as governor, I would abolish income tax completely. Now, I do think that we still need to fund many parts of the state. We need to still fund education. That is very important to me as governor. We need to do this through sales tax, not income tax. We can't take a piece of everybody else's pie in order to pay for this, of their hard-earned money. Rather, we can do that with sales tax, which will compensate for it, and we can still pay for higher education, or education in general, without using income tax.
Okay, so now we have a clash round for 7 minutes.
I would actually like to point out the fact that one portion of the sales tax is the grocery tax, which is needing
Okay.
to be removed.
Let's wait just a sec, okay?
Oh,
Now,
sorry.
ready, go.
Oh,
So I am not for income tax exactly, but I do think that we should lower it. But for education, income tax makes it so the richer areas have better education money and funds. And so I would be for equalizing or changing what taxes pay for education, because if you're in a nice area like Holiday, for example, where people are making a lot of money, the income tax is going to go to education, meaning more money for the schools. And well, this is imbalanced. So poorer areas don't get as good education. Now I would be for equalizing this.
I don't believe that's necessarily true, though. An income tax is extremely important to the government. A government can't run on no cash. We can't create money. Now, obviously we're not. I mean this as in we can't create something that's not there. We can't create inflation to a point where the economy is destroyed. What we need to do is balance it out. We'll have a low tax on food. We'll have a low income tax. My whole plan is to lower the taxes in all of these areas, so as a result, the economy benefits.
I'm not for abolishing the income tax, because I do agree with you that the government is not a business and it doesn't make money by itself. And although taxes are annoying for Americans and they take money directly from their pockets, it is needed. But I would like to keep them as conservative as possible and use the funds wisely.
My point is that, do we really need that much money invested in schools? Now, there's the teachers teaching children knowledge and things that kids need to know to grow up. So we're paying the teacher and we're paying for the curriculum and maybe even the pencils. Do we really need to pay a bunch more for some even worthless curriculums?
I would absolutely agree that we do need to put lots of money into our education system. Education is the prospect of our future. If we don't put enough money into our education system and we continue to have high school dropouts and people who just go and just live life doing simple jobs, we're not going to have
between Senator Irving and Senator Spencer, where I don't think we should just throw money at education, but I do think that we should value education and put it as a high priority, and use money as best we can while not being too extreme with it and spending it unwisely.
Well, I think that we need money for our schools. I think a great priority as part of my administration in office, I'm going to be putting more money towards education because it is really what builds our economy. We're teaching the children of the senators, we're teaching the children of the workers. So I plan on reducing taxes as well as moving money from useless conservation efforts, useless COVID policies, and instead moving that to a greater education. And in the long term, that will affect everybody.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that we need money to pay for knowledge? Yes, we do need to pay the teachers. We need to pay for the curriculum and the supplies. But do we need to spend that much as we do on teachers simply spreading knowledge and teaching them what is right and wrong? And also, isn't part of that the parents' job?
I would
Well,
say
yes,
that
I do think that part of the job is the parents, but you have to remember that parents can be busy. Sometimes these kids don't even have parents that they can rely on. Of course, I can't change what parents think. I can't change what parents do. So my plan is to enhance the schools. I want a greater education for Utahns. Of course, some schools are in good repair currently, but I want to improve the schools
Can we
that
hear
need it.
from candidate Peterson?
Yeah, I do think that it is important that we put money into the school systems and that we make sure that the teachers who are simply spreading knowledge are compensated for that so that we get the best teachers possible. However, I do want to address the sales tax regarding the grocery tax quickly. There's a bill in Congress right now that is possibly going to pass, and as a governor I would endorse this bill, allowing families who are struggling or who have less money to pay for more food for their families when they're just struggling to put food on the table, so they can buy more food instead of spending it on taxes that aren't strictly necessary, as the Utah government had in excess of $2.4 billion this year.
Now, on the matter of education, I'm going to disagree. Now, I think that when you dump money into something such as education, you get limited returns back on your investments. Now, we do need schools, we do need public education, but we can sustain these with minimal funding. It doesn't make sense to put much more money there because as we do that, the quality of the teachers doesn't get much higher, the quality of the curriculum doesn't get much higher, the quality of the school in general just doesn't improve. Now, we don't need to put more money there when it's not needed.
I'd agree.
I would agree too.
But I'd add that the parents are accountable for what they teach their children and what their children are exposed to. Even if they are busy and they don't have time to teach their children correct principles, that is their fault and it is on them. And we shouldn't enforce these kids to learn them.
For
Time's
education,
up. Okay. Okay.
And to refer back to the original question, how are we going to use income tax to help pay for schools? Now, there are two separate answers. First, we're going to completely abolish income tax. It's unethical, it's immoral, we can't sustain on that. We can use sales tax instead, which matters more on how much you spend, not how much you earn. And on the matter of paying for schools, we do need to pay for schools. I'm going to keep funding where it's at by using sales tax, not income tax, because we don't need to increase the quality of schools by dumping money.
Okay. All right. Candidate Jesse. Earlier this year, President Biden proposed universal pre-K throughout the United States, which would provide free public schooling for children below kindergarten levels. Parents could choose to opt in or out of this program. Currently, only 2 states have government-funded preschool options. Do you think Utah would benefit from universal pre-K? Would you support such an initiative?
Personally, as governor, I do not think I would go ahead with this bill in our state. I don't think this is a huge problem we already face. I think there is already enough resources for kids for pre-K and kindergarten to go to kindergarten, and I don't think that the government should put their step in to do that, and that it can be dealt to public schools and different things. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll do a rebuttal. So, let me stop it right here. Okay, I did not see.
It was in.
You can follow precedence rules, just who has talked the least amount.
Okay, let's go with
It was started and then me and then I don't know.
candidate Irving. We'll go.
I'd have to agree with Senator Jesse. As governor, I would definitely not go along with this program. I believe that this is where how America as a nation has gone into debt, putting government funding in places where it's not really needed. This isn't one of the biggest problems we have right now. There are plenty, as Senator Jesse said, plenty of fairly cheap options for parents to put preschoolers in. My mom herself has used plenty of them, and I do not think that we should get closer to debt in this way.
Senator Peterson.
I would also in fact agree with this, saying that I do not deem this necessary enough that we should divert that many funds and taxes requiring that much more money from our citizens who already, some of them already struggle. I do not think that it is necessary to divert this many taxes and go into more debt for this. We already have, like Senator Irving, candidate Irving mentioned, we already have many resources that we can use if it is necessary or they go to work for things. We already have many resources we can use, and it is simply not necessary to go into debt for this. Thank you.
Yeah, Senator Hennig. I mean, oops, you know.
Yes.
Mr. Hennig.
I have many little cousins, and these cousins enjoy playing, and they enjoy learning. But I think that an environment, a preschool that is funded by the government would be very beneficial to them. Now, we do already have some preschools, but they're paid for, and they can be expensive. The government can issue funds to direct it, and I think this is a worthwhile investment of funds to teach our young children. Now, also, there are many single mothers who struggle. They have full-time jobs, and they just can't take care of their young children all day. It's going to be really beneficial to them if they can have somewhere they can send their children where they know they can be learning and know they can be in a safe environment. I think this would be one of the best uses of Utah state funds.
Mr. Ewell?
So I would like to address what candidate Henrich said. I, first off, agree with most of my candidates that it wouldn't be a good use of taxes, as mainly because children at a very young age shouldn't be in school away from their family all day, every day, and they should have learning experiences, but not just in a classroom. They should be exploring new things. And while this is in good faith, the bill, it's just too much money for a small minority of single mothers that it would really help, and too much taxes and time, and it wouldn't be worth it. Thank you.
Mr. Stoddard.
As part of my plan to further the education of the state, I'm going to be putting funds into this pre-K curriculum. Why not let the younger children learn more? If they can learn so much more at these younger ages, it advances their learning in the future. It develops creativity, as well as helping with other issues like speech side effects. A lot of children suffer from not being able to speak completely correctly, and it's far better if we can catch these issues as quickly and as soon as possible. A pre-K environment would catch these issues, inform the parents, and therefore help these children in their future from bullying and just being able to fully receive their potential in the future. A vote for me is a vote for the higher educated, more developed Utah. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Spencer?
I'll say I have 2 points to make. Number one, this was by Joe Biden to this was introduced by Joe Biden and it was partially approved, and I'm just gonna say this. Anything that Joe Biden does, any idea that he has been completely stupid and worthless. I'm just gonna say Joe Biden is an idiot. He's too old to be a president. I'd like to add another thing. When I was in first grade, the first grade teachers ruined my education by reteaching me ABCs. And honestly, I think that kindergarten is a good time for little children to start, and plus kids need time at home with their family.
Candidate Peterson?
I would like to bring up one of the points my opponent has mentioned, saying that single mothers especially will want their kids to know that they're in a safe environment. I would like to bring up the point that, have you ever gone or heard of public schools versus private schools? Private schools are funded in individual businesses that have schools that they've decided to run and are funded by parents wanting to send their kids to a superior education. Public schools are often somewhat more dangerous mentally to students. There's more bullying. It's often harder for teachers. There's more kids. Often the public environments are they're inferior to the private environments that come from schools. So if a single mom wants to make sure that she's sending her child to a good place to learn and grow up in somewhat, then she'll probably want to choose a private place instead of a publicly funded, overfilled place that the government isn't funding enough. I think that it still wouldn't be a good idea to fund this pre-K program, and it'd be better just simply send them to private schools where they'll have a better place anyways. Thank you.
Mr. Irving?
To bring up a couple points the senators made, I don't think this is a good use of our money right now, and I believe that sending kids to school earlier than they need to, where bullying is pretty common, maybe not as common among the younger children, but still exposes them sooner.
Time's up. Okay, you ready?
Okay. With this bill, I will go back to what I said at the very beginning. I don't think it's a good use of our money, and that if these single mothers, for instance, wanted their children to go somewhere where they're learning at the same time as being watched, there's many places that already do that, like daycare, where that many do already teach while still watching their kids and don't have to. Thank you.